Have you seen the picture of Easter? Have you seen its lines and hues? It looks like darkness turning into light. Easter looks like the old giving way to the new. It looks like a Sunday morning where the stone is rolled away. Easter looks like the prophecies fulfilled and the world will never be the same. It looks like soldiers on the ground and the angels asking the women, "Are you looking for the living among the dead?" He's not here. He has risen. Picture this. Easter looks like the enemy's plan defeated. It looks like God always does what he said. It looks like darkness, your hour is over, and death is on his deathbed. Easter looks like supreme hope and joy. Easter looks like human history has a new direction. Easter is a permanent display of God's power. It's the picture of life and resurrection. Yes, there's a painting of your past, a picture of who you were. But when you put your trust in Jesus, Easter is a picture of your future. Have you seen the picture of Easter?
So sometimes we need a new perspective, sort of a new way of looking at things, because we can get into a rut. Back in the 1990s, Japan started something that felt really strange. It was called live funeral therapy, or living funerals. And the whole point of a living funeral was to have a new perspective, confront your mortality, celebrate the life you've lived, and really share gratitude with the people you loved. But over the last 25 years, that has sort of evolved and morphed. And other Asian countries are now doing this, living funerals, but now it's more about mental health. It's about trying to help people live a good and a fulfilling life. In fact, there are companies like Samsung and Hyundai Motors who regularly send their employees to go sit in a coffin and think about their life. They're doing this to prevent suicides and help people remember that you have to have a work-life balance. And while it may seem strange to us, I do not judge this, because they understand something so true of us as human beings. Sometimes we need a new perspective. That sometimes we get sort of misaligned and our priorities get turned upside down. And there are times when we truly need a different perspective. On this Easter morning, I'm going to read to you one of the Easter narratives out of the book of John, and I want you to take note that we're going to hear about 4 different people, and each one of them have a very different perspective of what they saw that morning when they found an empty tomb. They all had a different perspective. They didn't see it the same way. And so we're going to go ahead and read it to you, and I'm going to begin reading to you in John 20, verses 1. Early in the morning on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. And she ran to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we don't know where they put him." And Peter and the other disciple left to go to the tomb. They were running together, but the other disciple ran faster than Peter and was the first to arrive at the tomb. And bending down to take a look, he saw the linen clothes lying there, but he didn't go in. Following him, Simon Peter entered the tomb and saw the linen clothing lying there. And he also saw the face cloth that had been on Jesus' head. It wasn't with the other clothes, but it was folded up in its own place. And then the other disciple who had arrived at the tomb first also went inside, and he saw and he believed. I'm going to skip 2 verses to verse 11. And Mary stood outside the tomb crying, and as she cried, she bent down to look into the tomb, and she saw 2 angels dressed in white seated where the body of Jesus had been, one at the head and one at the foot. And the angels asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" And she replied, "They've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they put him." And as soon as she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't know it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for?" And thinking he was a gardener, she replied, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you put him, and I will get him." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned and said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Now I'm going to add one more reading, same chapter, just a little further down, because Jesus comes where the disciples are gathered and he reveals himself. But one disciple in particular was not there. And when he heard the story, he wasn't buying it. His name was Thomas. And he literally said to the other disciples, "Unless I see this myself, I am not going to believe." So we're going to move down to verse 26. And after 8 days, his disciples were again in a house, and Thomas was with them. And even though the doors were locked, Jesus entered and stood among them, and he said, "Peace be with you." And then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. Look at my hands. Put your hands into my side. No more disbelief. Believe." And Thomas responded to Jesus, "My Lord and my God." I love these readings in the book of John because they're very real and authentic. It just makes perfect sense to me that a little group of people would all have the same experience and experience it differently. Think about it. We all have different perspectives. We have different worldviews. We have different life experiences. We have different experiences of faith. And so when they encounter this just extraordinary thing, they all don't quite know how to interpret it. So I have a slide here to show you a comparison of the four, sort of a summary of how they both looked at that moment, what they were thinking. So the first one is John himself. So he saw and he believed, period. He just believed. That's it. He saw the empty tomb. He got it immediately. He knew that Jesus was the risen Lord. There was no doubt. The second one was Thomas. He didn't see and he did not believe. He didn't get it. He couldn't get his head or his heart around an alleged resurrection without some sort of empirical evidence. And I get that. I know a lot of people feel that way. The third one was Peter. He saw the empty tomb. He was so confused. He had no idea what it all meant. But, oh well, let's get going. He went back to his old life, his old job in Galilee, and he's just sort of moving on. And then there's Mary. And Mary sees the empty tomb, and like Peter, she is so confused, but she's immobilized. It's hard to think about what she's going to live, how she's going to live without Jesus in her life. It is she who, when she sees Jesus call her by name, can utter the great resurrection affirmation, "I have seen the Lord." They all had very different perspectives, just like you and all us. I'm always aware as a pastor on Easter and also on Christmas Eve that there is a portion of you who are here today, or maybe you're watching online, that someone you love said, "Hey, come to church with me on Easter." You maybe didn't want to do that, but you did it to honor them because you love them. And I want to commend you for that. That says a lot about who you are and the people you love. But I'm also very aware that some of us are not so sure about this whole faith thing. That maybe we've tried faith, but we got blocked somehow. That we just couldn't make it a go. It seems so easy for some people to believe and to not have doubts, but for you, like, it doesn't work. And that's okay, because God made us all very, very different. He absolutely did. That was his intention. So I wondered, what are the things that block us from faith? And so I did what any smart person does. I go to AI and I said, what blocks us from faith? And it came up with a really, really good list. And as I was looking at it and I was thinking about it, it really occurred to me that our personalities impact us. Our personalities really can cause us and block us from faith. You can sort of see it. So I asked AI, what is the best personality assessment? Of course, it was Myers-Briggs. Most of us know that, and most of us have had it done at some point. And so I'm going to use some of the language from Myers-Briggs so that you kind of have an understanding how this ties to your personality, okay? There's basically 4 things that sort of stops us, blocks us from having a relationship with Jesus Christ. So here's the first one. If you're a more sensing person, a more detail-oriented, practical, and focused on the present kind of person, you're going to struggle with intellectual and logical barriers. You're going to struggle between the whole thing, faith and science. That's going to be hard for you. This whole idea of miracles and the creation of the world versus empirical data, you're just not sure how that lines up. That's your personality. That's how God made you. And so you're going to struggle with that. You're going to be one of those people that is not comfortable with an unseen God. You like evidence. You like to know for sure. You want to see it and touch it. Or maybe just the whole idea of the problem of evil, that there is a God who allows suffering in this world, that blocks a lot of people. Maybe that has blocked you. It is confusing. It's so hard to wrap your brain around. So that's one of the blocks to a life of faith. The next one, some of you are more intuitive, relying on your gut, your instincts, and using logic and analysis. That's not as much as important to you as your gut is. For you, emotional and personal struggles can block you from trusting in God. Let's be honest, sometimes it feels like God has abandoned us. Things go upside down in our lives and you're wondering where God is. And for a lot of people, that can really kill the relationship with him. Maybe you have experienced some kind of devastating loss, lost someone you love, or maybe there's been an illness. That can block people. People get blocked when they pray and ask God to save someone, ask God to avoid something, ask God to help them with something that just feels impossible, and then it doesn't feel like God came through. That can really stop people in their faith. They can just turn around and walk away after that because they're so hurt. Or maybe you tried coming to church and somebody judged you, because that's what Christians do sometimes. They don't always act like Jesus, and you felt judged, and you were like, I'm not setting back my feet back in church, but then Mom asked me to go today. We all have things that can block our faith. The third one, if you describe yourself as a thinking kind of person and you're more likely logic-based, the cultural and societal influences can block your faith as well. What I mean by that is there's so many different practices of faith in our country, in our society now. Which is the right one? Who can say they have figured it out? Who can say they know the way to God? There's too many decisions. There's too many choices. Or maybe you're just mistrustful of organized religion. There have been so many scandals in the last 100 years. You have reason to mistrust the church. That's a huge block. Finally, if you see yourself as a person who is more of the feeling type, someone who weighs and evaluates your effective responses to the world, you may also struggle with faith. Feelers are very aware of their emotions. And they're very attuned to emotional nuances and subtleties. And if you know people and you've tried to connect to God and it didn't work. You didn't experience him in a way that was transformative. You may have given up. You may have decided that maybe you're not one of God's favorites. Or maybe you just felt like you're being punished because you questioned things. You had questions and there were no true answers. And you thought, maybe God doesn't like that. You see, there's a lot of things that block us, and our personalities can be part of it, from really trusting God. So what do? You know, it just seems for some people that faith is easy, and for other people it feels impossible. What do we do with that? Well, I went back to AI, and AI gave me a really, really good answer. But let's be honest, when you do AI, you get just the facts. There's no feeling, there's no heart to it. But there was some really good stuff there. And so I want to, in my own words, talk about faith. Like, why should you believe? What's an argument for belief? And I'll give you 3 reasons for an argument for belief. The first one is that when you have a life of faith, it gets you through the rough times. I don't know who you are, what your life story is, but everybody's got tough times. Do not believe social media. Do not believe Instagram. Do not believe Facebook. Yeah, people look wonderful and they look like everybody's taking fabulous trips. But that doesn't begin to express the troubles in everybody's lives. We all have issues. No one is exempt. If you live long enough, you're going to have problems. And that's what a life of faith is. It offers us peace when we should have no peace. I will tell you as a believer, when your life is literally falling apart and everything is a hot mess, and if you can still have peace, that is only because of a God who loves you. That is the only explanation. When you can still find hope when life has gotten really hard. That's the first reason for faith. The second reason for faith has to do with the afterlife. Probably the biggest influencer of all of us is that we believe as people of faith that there's something after death. And we hold on to that, and that brings us great hope. And most of us want something after death, right? Most of us have lost somebody we want to see again. Most of us have a loved one that we long for, that we miss still. And no, someday we will see them again. That gives us such hope. That makes faith worth it right there. I lost my mom probably 5 years ago. And honestly, when I think about heaven, I think the first thing I think about is I can't wait to see her and put my arms around her. I just want to feel her little body again. I want to be able to hug on her. And then I want to sit down and I want to have a cup of coffee with her, and I want to talk about life with her. And yes, there is coffee in heaven. And we're going to have that moment, and I'm going to be so happy to be able to be with her again. That's an amazing thing that our faith offers us. Deep, deep hope. And then here's the last thing. Purpose. Now, I got to be really clear with you here. There's a lot of people who have purpose in life who do amazing things, and they have no faith whatsoever. And God bless them. And they are making the world a better place. But I happen to know that a lot of people are like me. And we are a self-centered, self-absorbed bunch. If I didn't have faith that requires me to get my butt off the couch and go out and serve others, to share of my finances, of my resources, to forgive when someone doesn't deserve forgiveness, or to extend kindness and mercy to someone who desperately needs it. I do that because of my faith. It requires me to. And I love that it requires me. I would like to say that I would be just naturally other-centered, but I wouldn't be. I'm self-centered. But my faith pulls me out of that place. It makes me be a better version of me. That's important. And someday when I breathe my last breath, I will know that I lived an imperfect life, but I lived a good life. And I loved on others, and I served them, and I shared of my resources. That's purpose. And that's something that faith gives me as well. Now, maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking like, well, maybe I would try it again, but I don't even know how to do that. And I need to remind you about those 4 folks that we talked about earlier, Mary and John and Peter and Thomas. Think about what happened with them. They had doubts. They thought Jesus was dead. Yet Jesus met them right where they were at in a way that they could understand, in a way that was meaningful to them. And all 4 of them went on to have amazing lives of faith. And Jesus will do the same for any of us. If you want more, you just simply have to tell him. He'll do the work. He'll come to you. He'll start reaching you in a way that only God can reach you because he knows you, because he made you, he created you, and he gets you. You just simply have to say, come find me, God, I think I'm ready. And he will, because he's a God who loves all his creation, and he desires to be in relationship with all of us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Will you pray with me? Loving God, thank you. You just never give up on us, even when we're mad at you, even when we're angry at you, even when we think you don't exist. And then you seek us out, and you love on us, and you cherish us, and you treat us like your children. So we thank you on this Easter morning that you did the hard thing for us so that we might know you in this life and that we might know your blessings. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.